We can hear you. Thank you. Welcome, and please take it away.
All right, let me get my slides. Can you see the slides?
Yes, in the presentation mode right now. Perfect.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Dominica. So I looked through the attendee list and I just saw very few names that I'm familiar with, which is super exciting for me. We do tend to kind of join in the same groups a lot. So it's really great to see some new names on the panel and be able to share with you what it is that Alaska Safety Alliance does. So you'll pardon me if I clear my throat or I sound a little scratchy. I am at home with COVID. Unfortunately, our director of operations was supposed to take over for me and then came down with COVID as well. So I'm back up on cue for this and a little less prepared than I'd like to be since I've been sleeping for most of the last 5 days.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, Carrie, and I am so grateful that you showed up despite your condition. So we appreciate you very much.
Oh, well, I am happy to do it. I wish I felt better, but I feel like I'm on the upswing and I should be back at 100% probably next week. So it's a great opportunity. And I do want to share about Alaska Safety Alliance. First of all, our Alaska Safety Alliance is a 501c3. We're a nonprofit organization. We've been an organization since 1999. We're coming up on our 25th anniversary next year. We were started by industry and we continue to be an industry-driven organization. And our focus, though it may not be apparent by our name as Alaska Safety Alliance, and our focus and our mission is to ensure the availability of a highly trained workforce sufficient to staff Alaska's industry safely and competitively now and in the future. So all of those fancy words really just mean we're trying to make sure that Alaskans have the training that is required for them to go to work in Alaska's high priority industries, that we get away from recruiting so much from out of state for some of our high paying living wage jobs, and make sure that we can recruit qualified Alaskans into these positions. And I'll talk about I'll highlight some of the things that we do and then talk more kind of generally at the end of the presentation. So what industries do we serve? Really, the answer is all industries. Traditionally, it's been oil and gas construction, more recently maritime and mining, but we are seeing, as many of you are probably hearing, the high demand for upcoming jobs. Our worker shortage that we're experiencing nationwide has really pushed our organization into taking a much larger role in the development of Alaska's workforce. So we have seen interest from the airline industry, from healthcare, from the travel industry. Really, everybody needs workers. I really think that there's not an industry that can say that they're not having a difficult time recruiting talented people. So we want to be able to step in, and we have some of those infrastructure pieces in place within our organization to be able to pretty easily step into a new industry. We've been doing it for a long time, and that experience is really helpful in getting some programs off the ground in new areas. So what is it that we do exactly? We're really a connector, a convener organization. Our membership is 75% industry and employers. The other 25% are partners, education partners, and other nonprofits that want to participate, that want to be part of this coalition that's looking to develop and to be in touch and connected with our industry employers. So we connect those industry partners with our educators and training organizations, and really I work with industry to identify where those training gaps are, whether that's for technical training or for safety education, which is a big focus of ours too, and in getting people prepared for work, is that they have the safety training. And we are reciprocal members with ABC and AGC. some of the other groups that have talked with you guys during this ACAC session. And we are sponsors of the NCCER curriculum that Amber just talked about. We are the only organization in the state of Alaska that acts as a sponsor organization for the NCCER curriculum, where we provide that service outside of our own organization. So what that means is there are some employers that use NCCER curriculum and they are sponsors of that curriculum, but only for their own internal purposes. There's a number of hoops that you need to jump through and some costs associated with being a sponsor organization for NCCER, and it can be prohibitive for some of our education providers, especially in the secondary arena, where we can act as a convener for that to connect our educators. And some of the things that Amber was talking about, like the core curriculum can be taught in high school and is taught in high schools throughout the state. So that can prepare them for easy entry into some of Suzanne's programs, into some of AGC's programs, and to ABC's programs as well. So another focus area for us is workforce development plans on a number of different ways that we can be involved in that. Our involvement comes post development of a workforce development plan, as happened with the Alaska Maritime Workforce Development Plan, which Mari Sell from our office is going to talk with you more about in the next portion of this training. But the maritime group that developed that plan, the employers that developed that plan, calling themselves a Maritime Works, really embedded Maritime Works into our organization in order that they have a staff and somebody to coordinate how the strategies that were named within the Maritime Workforce Development Plan were implemented. As you might imagine, employers who are, volunteer their time to develop a workforce development plan all have very demanding jobs, working as HR professionals or recruiters or supervisors, journeyman folks that are in the trade. They might have the time to volunteer on a committee to develop that workforce development plan, but to implement the strategies identified within the plan really is a long-term commitment that requires a lot of coordination. So that's where ASA can step in and develop some of the materials, make sure that things are moving forward, the strategies are being recognized. And I don't want to talk too much or steal any of Mari's thunder, because I know that she's going to go into some detail about what she's doing with Maritime currently. But just some of the sample things is we've developed some career pages, some outreach and awareness materials, and she'll give you some details on that. So another way that we might be engaged with workforce development plans is to actually be the person that or the organization that leads or participates in developing a plan. Currently, we are in partnerships with the State of Alaska Department of Labor, and the Denali Commission has provided some funding for us to develop a statewide cross-industry workforce development plan, something that I've been pushing for many years. Because what we see in some of these plans, like mining, maritime, oil and gas, and construction especially, is that there are a number of cross-cutting skills or cross-cutting occupations that are required across all of these different industry sectors. So really the demand is not specific to a sector, and the jobs are not so different that we need to be doing separate strategies, but we need to figure out a way to combine those. And if say maritime requires 1,000 welders and mining might require another 500 welders, we really need to be looking at a statewide way to develop the 1,500 welders that we need, right? It's very difficult to work in these segregated portions, and much easier to fulfill our state's needs when we are looking at across all industries. So that's part of what that's about. And then we do kind of sit on the sidelines as an observer or a contributor to some of the other workforce development plans right now, working with the Alaska Broadband Office. As Amber mentioned, that's a big ask, a big lift, lots of trained people that are going to be needed for the telecom infrastructure that is going to be required for the statewide broadband plan. So we can be engaged at different levels, but really all of it is mission work to us that is looking toward how do we develop the training or enhance the training programs that are already in place in order to produce the number of Alaskans that it's going to be required by these industries to make sure that they're thriving, and that Alaskans and Alaskan families are benefiting from the work that's generated through our infrastructure plan. Another thing that we've recently taken on is hosting the Business Education Compact. The Alaska Business Education Compact has been in place since, I'm going to say, the late 80s. It was mostly held up by one of our founding members, Mr. Dave Reese, who was employed by ARCO and then BP, and was very instrumental in the Putting Alaskans to Work initiative back in the late 80s and early 90s. But what has really stayed as part of the core of Alaska workforce development is this Business Education Compact, which is not an organization of its own, but a forum and an open forum where we invite folks who are interested in workforce development, statewide training initiatives, education, workforce development plans, all kinds of ways to be engaged and involved in developing Alaskans in this training area. And it's a statewide forum. We invite industry, educators, nonprofits, other partners that are involved in this area, state agencies. We do see a really good participation in these monthly meetings. Dave was fantastic at keeping up very relevant topics and has entrusted us to continue forward in that tradition. And I'm very proud of the staff at ASA who's been putting their heart and soul in making sure that we do a good job in keeping Dave's legacy running strong. We do have some interesting topics coming up, and you can see what's coming up. We do now have a web page that says what the dates are, provides the Zoom link for that meeting, which is held the second Wednesday every month except July. We always take a break in July, and the topics that are coming up for those meetings. And just recently, one of the areas that we've expanded to is providing scholarships. So we used to manage the BP Process Tech Scholarship on behalf of BP when they sold their assets to Hillcorp and left their business units here in the state. That scholarship was no longer available, and we entered a partnership with Alaska 529 to create a new scholarship program. We did fund that. We received some matching funds from Alaska 529. We're happy to partner with Lael and her team over there. And this year is the first year that we've actually been able to issue awards based on some of the earnings that we've received on the principal investment. And that scholarship program is really not just for our traditional college and vocational students. It's not just for degree seekers, but also for those seeking occupational endorsements or certificates, or doing professional development that will move them up in their career and therefore open up some positions for some entry-level folks. You must be an Alaska resident. You also must be attending an Alaska training program, Alaska-based training program. Or if you're taking training outside of the state of Alaska or sponsored by an outside organization, then that training must not be available through an Alaska training provider. So for many years, for example, in the maritime industry, one of their high priority occupations is ammonia refrigeration technician. There is not an ammonia refrigeration technician training currently available, though one is going to be launched very soon. But because it was not available, that would have been eligible for this scholarship, even if you would have been taking the training. Traditionally in Kansas is where they would send people to get that type of specific training. So we're really trying to focus on getting Alaskans trained, keeping them here in state, keeping them engaged, and then moving them into the workforce here in the state of Alaska. And if you have questions on that, the scholarship application period is closed for this year. We just are naming awardees next week, but we will be honoring those awardees at the Alaska Safety Alliance annual membership meeting, which is open to everyone, and that is October the 19th at the Bridge Restaurant in downtown Anchorage. From 3 to 6 p.m. More information is available on our website. There's no cost to attend, but a donation is asked for if you are so inclined. And then more of a broad picture of what the other things that Alaska Safety Alliance does. A big part of what we do in order to generate revenue is safety training through our learning management and compliance system. This system is available to our both our members and non-members. There are member discounts for certain things. For training that is developed by us is discounted to our members. The training and compliance system has been widely popular, more so than we could have ever imagined when launching it, though we did understand the need for it. We have wide interest from the Alaska Oil and Gas's largest operators in the state that use us. We currently host all of ConocoPhillips entry-level safety training for their contractors, free to the contractors to take that through our system. The great thing, really, I mean, there's a lot of great things about that online learning and compliance system, but one of the really convenient things, especially for trainees, is that we have somewhat of a transient workforce. You know, somebody who might be working for contractor A this month there, and Susanna and Amber can testify to this with apprentices and journey workers too, that they'll move from contractor A to contractor B. And what is really convenient is that we can move that employee from that contractor employer company to the new contractor employer company, and all of their training certifications that they talked about earlier, like NSTC, their first aid, all of those certifications go with them in the system from one employer to the other. So we're reducing the amount of downtime in between for a new hire. So if a new hire comes to you with all of their training in place, as Amber stated earlier, it's a lot faster turnaround time, a lot faster mobilization for your workforce to get right into the position, rather than standing by and waiting to retake or their training that they've already had in the past. So it's a great system. I invite people to take a look and see what that's about. We also do some custom training development based on need, usually based on an industry specific demand or ask to us. So it could be site specific, it could be a regional training, it could be an orientation for a specific company. So we do work with our employer companies to do that. And we do have just over 100 member companies and more than 700 companies within our learning management system that are currently training people through that online system. And as you can see on the slide, we have over 1,600, a library of over 1,600 trainings available. Those aren't all ours. They weren't created by us, but we have some partners like JJ Keller and other training providers that they have their training programs in the platform as well. So we can also take some traditionally in-person delivered training and work with organizations to turn that content into computer-based training. And that could be proctored or non-proctored based on the need of the person who wants to transfer that to CBTs. And then the last thing I want to talk about is that NCCER sponsorship. That is really a critical piece of what we do. It's not it's not an income generating thing for us. It's really part of what we do for mission, and that is to get those high school students and post-secondary students who are taking those core curriculum classes. They have these industry recognized credentials and the ease to move into some of the other programs that were talked about by AGC, the AFL-CIO, and ABC. They start earning those credentials, and those are stackable credentials, and they can move right into that training with other providers. So we're very proud of that. We do host about 65, or we sponsor about 65 trainers, instructors across the state. Those are both in secondary, post-secondary, and industry or company embedded instructors as well. So I'll leave it at that. I see there's a number in the chat room here, so I want to make sure that I have that opportunity to address any questions that we have coming here, and I will stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Carrie-Ann. Between myself, Naomi, and Mari, we've been sharing links.
Oh, perfect. Great.
I do have a question about this new scholarship. So right now, and I know it's new and it may change, but right now it is offered annually, right? Only once a year.
Well, okay, so that was our first year this year, and we did time it specifically to be able to give those awards out at our annual meeting in October. So I would anticipate that we would have probably 2 cycles each year, but we're still in discussions about that, mainly because it's so unique and we're not really tied to an academic year. So we have some folks who are upgrading to their Master 1600 in vessel operations, which is a couple weeks worth of class, and it can be started at any time over at ABTEC. We want to make sure that we're not waiting an entire year to be able to have those eligible people funded through the scholarship program. So there'll probably be a creative solution or creative answer to that question at some point.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just to double check, your annual meeting is open to everyone, not only your members.
That is correct. And we would be happy to have anyone on this call who's interested in learning more about the organization. It's a great opportunity to connect with our industry members, a great opportunity to connect with our board of directors and get to know more about the organization. So yes, it is completely and 100% open to the public.
Excellent, thank you. Do we have any other questions for Carrie-Ann? If not, we won't take more of your time. Please get better soon, rest. We'll just have a longer break. That's fine.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you all for having me today, and I appreciate the invitation, Dominica.
Thank you, Carrie-Ann, for joining us. Bye-bye.
Bye.